I decided to go camping alone a couple of months ago. I wanted peace and quiet, just me and my camera. I set up my tent near a small lake while the sun was setting. The light cast strange shadows on the trees. I thought it was beautiful. I was excited. I'd camped before, but never in such isolation. That first night was calm. I listened to the gentle waves lapping at the shore. But around midnight, something changed. I heard footsteps. I couldn't tell what it was. My heart raced as I leaned out of my tent. It was dark and I couldn't see anything. Maybe it was just a raccoon. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. When I finally tried to sleep, I felt a tapping. It was light but persistent, like someone was poking my tent. It made my skin crawl. I wanted to yell, ask who was there, but I froze. Going outside felt too risky. I kept telling myself to relax and ignore it. The next day, I hiked further into the woods. I wanted to take pictures of wildlife. That's why I was there, after all. While walking, I found strange symbols carved into a tree. They didn't look natural. They worried me. Why would someone do that? I took pictures anyway and tried to push the thoughts away. That night, the rustling came back. It was closer this time. The tapping returned, louder and more urgent. This time I knew I couldn't ignore it. I unzipped my tent and stepped outside. The forest was dark and still. My breath quickened. I stood there, surrounded by nothing but shadows, then saw a shape dart between the trees. It was too fast to be a deer. My mind raced. I had to make sense of this. Back at my gear, I found something odd. A small child's toy. I couldn't believe it. I hadn't packed anything like it. Was someone messing with me? I wanted to shake it off as paranoia, but the strange feeling hung over me like a cloud. The creepy vibe grew stronger. I couldn't shake what I felt. By the time I packed up to leave, I was restless. I kept questioning everything. The noises, the symbols, the toy. I brushed off my worries, thinking I was imagining things. A few nights ago, I was in my room when I heard tapping again. I jolted up. It was coming from my bedroom window. My skin went cold. I knew that sound. The memory of that camping trip rushed back. I didn't want to look. I was scared, but I had to know. I crept closer and my heart raced. What was out there? I stood there frozen, wondering if I'd ever escape the woods that never really let me go. I hesitated, my heart pounding against my ribcage. The tapping outside was soft but insistent, like a desperate plea for attention. I peered through the curtains, half expecting to see a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness. Instead, there was nothing but the night, vast and empty. But then, a chill darted down my spine. I could have sworn I saw a flicker of movement at the edge of my yard. I squinted into the darkness and felt a wave of nausea wash over me. What if it wasn't just my imagination running wild? I gripped the windowsill tightly, heart racing as I replayed every unnerving moment from the past few days. I needed to shake this off. I grabbed my camera, hoping to find some comfort in the familiar routine of snapping photos. I stepped into the living room, the soft glow of my lamp illuminating the scattered photographs I had printed from my trip. Each image pulled me back to those tranquil moments by the lake, but they now felt tainted by dread. Then as I sorted through the photos, one caught my eye. It was from the first evening when I set up camp. I remembered the moment clearly, the vibrant colors of the sky reflected in the calm water. But something was off. In the corner of the image, there was a faint blur, almost like a figure standing between the trees. I hadn't noticed it before. I rubbed my eyes, hoping it was just a trick of the light or a glitch with my camera. But the more I stared, the more it unsettled me. It felt wrong, like a hidden truth I wasn't ready to confront. Suddenly, the memories of the strange symbols came flooding back. Had I overlooked something important? The tapping resumed, more determined now. It was louder this time. I dropped the photo and moved to the window, dread pooling in my stomach. The shadows felt alive, the darkness whispering secrets I didn't want to hear. And that's when I saw it. Something small and white lying on the ground beneath the window. My breath caught in my throat. It looked like the toy I'd found in the woods. How had it gotten here? Panic surged within me, threatening to overwhelm my senses. The toy was damp as if it had been left out in the rain. I didn't want to touch it. Yet, as if drawn by an unseen force, I quietly opened the door and stepped outside. The air felt thick and cloying, making it hard to breathe. I could see the faint outline of the toy clearly now. I felt a rush of nausea wash over me, an urgent sense to flee. Then, out of nowhere, the lights flickered. Everything plunged into darkness. My heart raced, and I stumbled back toward the house. The night felt alive, pressing down on me from all sides. The tapping shifted again, but this time it was followed by a soft giggle. A child's giggle. I froze, terror rooting me to the spot. I wanted to scream, to run, but all I could do was stand there, trapped in the haze of fear. Then I heard footsteps again, not far from where I stood. I had to know what was happening. I had to confront it. The moment I heard the footsteps, my body tensed. They sounded so close, each step sending chills through me. I took a shallow breath, trying to steady my racing heart. Fear wrestled with my curiosity, but I knew I couldn't just stand there. I stepped back toward the door, but my instincts screamed at me to look toward the sound instead. I caught a glimpse of a figure passing by the trees. It was just a flash, a pale outline darting from one shadow to another. My heart pounded louder, drowning out the soft rustling of leaves. Was it real? Or was my mind just playing tricks on me again? "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. No response. The giggle echoed again, teasingly distant. I wanted to turn and run back inside, but I was frozen, caught between fear and an unexplainable pull to know more. Braving a few steps forward, I strained to focus on the darkness. A weak beam of light from the moon broke through the clouds, catching a glimpse of the toy at my feet. The eerie reminder of my earlier encounter heightened my anxiety. Everything shifted in my mind. Why was this toy here? It felt like a message, but from who? Then I heard a faint whisper. "Come play." The voice was soft, eerily childlike, but the weight of its invitation felt like ice on my skin. I felt a shiver run through me, twisting my stomach into knots. Instead of inviting comfort, the thought of playing sent me reeling. I turned, ready to retreat, when a loud crash rang out from the forest behind me. I whirled around, heart racing uncontrollably. Branches snapped and leaves crunched underfoot. Something was moving through the underbrush. My instincts kicked in. I had to get back inside. As I turned, I caught my breath, suddenly aware of my surroundings. The house felt like a haven, something solid amidst the whispers of fear. I sprinted toward the door, fumbling with the knob as I felt the atmosphere shift behind me. Something was closing in. Just as I pulled the door open, a cold wind swept by, nearly knocking me off balance. I stumbled inside, heart racing, and slammed the door shut behind me. In one frantic motion, I locked it, my pulse pounding in my ears. Safe, I thought, but the terror didn't leave me. Yet, even as I turned to lean against the door, a sense of dread grew anew. The shadows in my living room felt thicker, almost alive. That's when I caught sight of the camera still hanging from my neck. Snapping a few photos was the last thing on my mind, but I needed to capture this, capture whatever was happening. With shaky hands, I raised the camera to my eye and aimed at the window, where the moonlight barely illuminated the space outside. I pressed the shutter, hoping to find some clarity in what I'd seen. A ghostly figure, perhaps, or strange movement. The shutter clicked, and I lowered the camera, breathless. There it was. In the photo, just like in the image from my camping trip, I glimpsed something unsettling. A figure stood among the trees, more defined now, eyes staring directly at me. I dropped the camera in shock. Suddenly, a loud thud banged against the door, followed by the chilling giggle again. I realized then this night was far from over. Who or what was out there, and did it want to play? I stood frozen, staring at the door, a million questions battling through my mind. The giggle was like a taunt, echoing in the empty space. This wasn't just a prank. That voice was so distinctly inviting, yet it sent waves of fear coursing through me. I backed away from the door, adrenaline making every movement feel electric. I didn't know what to do. My heart raced as I scanned the room, searching for something, anything that could help me. The darkness felt oppressive, and I searched for light. I flicked the lamp on, casting a dim glow across the room. It was weak, but at least it pushed back some of the shadows. Then I heard it again. A soft thud against the door, followed by the unmistakable sound of something dragging. I watched in horror as my own breath fogged the air. I needed to do something. I grabbed my camera off the floor, hands still shaking uncontrollably. I considered snapping another picture, hoping to catch whatever lurked outside, but I wasn't sure I wanted to see what I might reveal. Instead, I turned the camera's flash on. The sudden burst of light pierced the dark room, like a beacon. "Leave me alone!" I yelled, voice heavy with panic as I stepped back into a corner, the shadows closing in like a living thing. There was no answer, just the continued sound of dragging, punctuated by the occasional soft giggle that seemed closer each time. Then it stopped. I held my breath, my mind swirling with the possibilities of what could be happening just outside. I leaned closer to the door, straining to hear. Was it gone? I was desperate to know. In that moment, a frantic scratching sound began, scraping against the wood as if something were trying to get in. Instinctively, I raised the camera, ready to shoot again. Fear flowed through my veins. The scratching intensified, a deliberate rhythm that echoed like a heartbeat. In that rush of panic, I stumbled backward, my heel catching on the edge of the coffee table. I tumbled to the floor, the camera slipping from my fingers. The flash went off again, illuminating the room in a strobe of light. On the final flash, I caught sight of something that made my blood run cold. In the glow of the flash, a shadow darted across the window, just for an instant. It was impossibly tall, thin like a shadowy puppet. I scrambled to pick up the camera, but my heart sank when I saw it was already low on battery. Would it last long enough to capture whatever was out there? A loud crash echoed through the house, this time coming from the back. I bolted upright, panic coursing through me. Should I check it out? Do I stay put? The thought of confronting whatever it was made me feel sick. That's when I heard the soft giggle again, now inside the house. I realized in that moment, whatever was out there had found a way in. And suddenly a voice chimed from the direction of the sound. "Let's play." I stumbled back, breathless, my eyes darting to the shadows creeping around the room. The voice was a haunting melody, sweet yet terrifying, and my gut told me that whatever was inviting me to play was not a friend. Panic clutched at my throat, and I gripped the camera tightly, forcing myself to focus. I couldn't just wait here. I had to check the back of the house. Cautiously, I approached the door that led to the hallway, my feet silent against the wooden floor. Every sound made my heart skip. A creak, the whisper of fabric brushing against something, a soft hum that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere all at once. I needed to know what was going on. I stepped into the hallway, the dim light from the lamp casting long shadows around me that danced with every flicker. Each step I took felt monumental, as if I were moving through molasses, the fear threatening to swallow me whole. As I made my way toward the back of the house, I realized I was no longer alone in the silence. The giggle had transformed. It wasn't just a giggle anymore. There were voices, too, muffled whispers that seemed to skitter from one corner to another. They felt alive, feeding off my fear. My heart raced as I reached the door leading to the backyard. I paused for a moment, the handle cold beneath my palm. Just as I was about to open it, I heard a loud crash echo from the kitchen. I recoiled instinctively, dread pooling in my stomach. What could possibly be happening? "Who's there?" I called out, but my voice trembled, barely above a whisper. There was no reply, just a profound stillness, the kind that wrapped around you and made you feel like you were being watched. Suddenly my camera beeped, signaling that the battery was dying. Adrenaline surged through me and I turned it on, hoping to capture whatever lurked behind me. In my periphery, I saw a flicker, a shadow darting across the kitchen entrance. The heavy aura of fear gusted through the air. I raised the camera, heart thudding in my chest, but before I could snap a picture, I saw it clearly. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, cloaked in darkness. It was small and gaunt, eyes gleaming with a predatory glint. I stumbled back, limbs feeling heavy as terror clawed at my insides. The face was pale, a wide grin smeared across its features, like a doll from a nightmare. "Let's play," it repeated, the giggle now sharp, slicing through the air. I backed up instinctively, but the shadows were closing in. My mind raced for an escape route as it took a step forward. I turned and ran, barreling toward the front door, but as I sprinted, the temperature in the house plummeted. A sickening sensation twisted in my gut. Then everything went dark. The lights flickered out entirely, leaving me in a pitch-black void. My breath caught in my throat and I fumbled blindly, panic surging anew. I could feel it. Something was right behind me. "Playtime's just beginning," it whispered, and the darkness closed in around me. I blinked, trying to regain my bearings in the thick darkness. I could hear my own heartbeat echoing in my ears, a frantic drumbeat competing with the suffocating silence. Every sense was heightened. I could feel the cool air around me, the soft brush of fabric that sent shivers down my spine. I reached for my camera, praying the faint light would pierce through the abyss. Just as I turned it on, the screen flickered to life, illuminating the immediate surroundings in a dim glow. I was still in the hallway, but the shadow had vanished. I turned slowly, scanning the edges of the room, begging to see the small figure again so I could prepare myself. But nothing, just empty darkness, cloaked and silent. Then I heard it, the soft click of footsteps on the floor behind me. Panic gripped me once more, and I spun around, raising the camera as a shield. "Show yourself!" I shouted, my voice stronger than I felt. I was met with brittle silence until a low, chilling laugh echoed down the hallway, tearing through the stillness like a knife. "You're not playing fair," it sang out, that same disturbing giggle chasing the words as it receded into the shadows. I took a step back, desperate for escape. I knew I couldn't stand here. I ran back toward the kitchen, hoping to find a way out. The hallway stretched longer with each step, like a never-ending corridor of despair. I reached for the doorknob leading into the kitchen, but the door creaked open on its own before I could touch it. I hesitated. The kitchen was dark, the air thick with an almost tangible dread. But I remembered the sound of chaos and knew I had to see. I stepped inside, holding the camera up like a flashlight. The kitchen felt wrong. The table was overturned, chairs scattered like fallen soldiers. My eyes darted around, searching for any sign of movement. That's when I noticed a chilling detail. A child's drawing on the wall, illuminated by the camera's light. Stick figures played in a sunny field, their smiles wide and bright, except for one figure, a dark silhouette lurking behind them, its grin similar to the thing that haunted me. "Play with me," the voice echoed from somewhere deep within the house, echoing through the walls like a ghostly choir. I swallowed hard, my breathing turning shallow. I had enough. Turning, I raced back to the hallway, my heart pounding. I had to get out. The front door felt like a lifeline, but when I reached for it, the sound of feet shuffled behind me again. I turned slowly, breath hitching, and there it was. A flicker of movement by the stairwell, a mere silhouette, but the same haunting grin splattered across its features. This time, I didn't scream. I pushed through the front door and burst into the night, the chill biting at my skin. As I stumbled off the porch, something gnawed at my gut. I glanced over my shoulder, expecting to see it standing in the doorway. Instead, I saw the shadows of the trees sway and shift, the absence of light whispering promises of fear. Just as I turned to escape, I tripped on something, an object half buried in the ground. Reaching for it, I pulled up a small, fragile doll, its porcelain face cracked, with eyes that seemed all too familiar. That's when the laughter returned, louder and closer, a chorus of echoes tangled in the quiet air. And that's when I knew. I wasn't alone in this darkness. I stumbled into the yard, the cool night air filling my lungs like a bitter balm. The distant laughter echoed in my mind, a staccato reminder that danger lurked just beyond my sight. I clutched the doll tighter, feeling its cold, brittle surface under my fingers. Why did it feel so familiar? I had to get out of this place. I glanced back at the house, its windows like dark eyes staring into my soul. The laughter had stopped, swallowed by the night. but I felt the weight of something lurking in the shadows, waiting. I turned and sprinted toward the tree line behind the house. I could hide there. The underbrush rustled underfoot, branches clawing at my clothes as I pushed deeper into the thicket. I could still hear my heart pounding, a frantic rhythm that matched the thuds of my footfalls against the earth. I found a small clearing, only lit by the silver sliver of the moon above. I dropped to my knees, breathless. I took a moment to gather my thoughts. The doll lay in my lap, its cracked face illuminated in the faint light. I scrutinized it, noting the same clothing it wore. The frayed dress and faded blue ribbon was eerily similar to what I had seen earlier in the house. A memory stirred, flickering just out of reach. Something from my childhood. "Stop thinking about it," I whispered to myself. "Focus." I forced my eyes back toward the house. As I peered through the trees, I felt a sudden chill, the air thickening with an unseen pressure. Then, I noticed movement. A small figure was standing at the edge of the porch, just outside the front door. The same shape, the same haunting grin. It raised a hand, waving, beckoning me closer. I recoiled, crawling backward through the brush. My mouth went dry, the weight of fear pressing down on me. That laughter returned, a dissonant melody mixing with the whispers of the wind. I felt a surge of rage. Why did it keep toying with me like this? I swore I would find a way to confront it, to put an end to this nightmare. With newfound determination, I stood up, barely aware of the branches scraping against my arms. I needed to find something, anything to defend myself. That's when a flicker of movement caught my eye near a fallen tree. A flashlight. I crawled over to it, half hoping it still worked. The flashlight was dirt-caked but intact. I pushed the switch, and light flooded the dark. I took a moment to breathe, the beam cutting through the shadows. As I scanned the area, I caught sight of something moving toward me, hidden among the trees. My stomach dropped. This time, it wasn't just laughter. The whispers sounded more like words. Familiar words. "Come play with us." I realized then that the shadows had voices. I aimed the flashlight in the direction of the sound, and the beam landed on what looked like more dolls scattered around the base of the tree. But these weren't just any dolls. They mirrored the one in my hand, every cracked face and vestige of childhood play. That's when I saw it, a figure lurking behind the trees just out of reach of the light. I raised the flashlight again, my heart racing as I tried to steady the beam. But everything went dark. The flashlight flickered and died, plunging me back into the blackness. I swallowed my fear, mentally kicking myself for not finding backup batteries. I turned to run but froze in place as the laughter grew loud, circling around me, echoing off the trees and filling the air with an unseen pressure. I needed to get away. But something was blocking my path. The figure rushed forward from the darkness, a malevolent grin plastered across its face, and I could only scream as the laughter drowned everything out. The figure lunged at me from the darkness. My instincts kicked in, and I turned to run, adrenaline coursing through my veins. I pushed my legs harder than I ever thought possible, darting between the trees. Branches whipped at my face, but I barely felt the sting. All I could focus on was the weight of something pursuing me. The laughter followed, echoing through the night, twisting my stomach in knots. I noticed a tree ahead with a large hole at its base. I skidded to a halt and dove inside, pulling the remnants of leaves around me like a blanket. My breaths were shallow and urgent as I listened intently, praying the figure would pass me by. Minutes felt like hours, but the laughter grew quieter. I peeked out, daring to hope that my pursuer had lost my trail. Moonlight illuminated the area, and I caught a glimpse of a small, faded blanket, too close to the hole for comfort. Whoever had been here before, I realized, must have hidden from the same thing I was now fleeing. As I settled back into my hiding spot, guilt washed over me. I held the doll tightly, the familiar weight reminding me of the memories swirling in my mind. Was it possible that the doll belonged to a child who once lived here, or had it been part of their haunting presence? I clenched my jaw. I needed answers, but fear gripped me, and doubt flooded in. Then I heard it, a soft rustling nearby. I froze, my heart pounding again. This time it didn't sound like laughter. The low murmur of soft voices filled the air, their words unintelligible but filled with urgency. I risked another glance, careful not to make a sound. At the edge of the clearing, a group of figures gathered just outside the glow of the moonlight. They stood in strange positions, almost as if they were playing a game, but I couldn't tell if they were kids or something else entirely. All I could see were their silhouettes, faces obscured. Panic surged as another realization hit me. They were holding dolls, too. I tried to crawl back deeper into the tree, my breath hitching. I wanted to hide and forget everything. But something deep inside told me to keep watching. As the whispers grew louder, I could finally make out some words. "Come play with us," they chanted in unison, and a cold shiver traveled down my spine. I clenched my eyes shut, willing the voices to disappear. I didn't want to play. I didn't want any part of whatever twisted game they were involved in. But the moment I opened my eyes, the figures had moved closer, one breaking away from the group, moving toward me. My instincts kicked in again. I needed to get out. I pushed myself back, wanting to escape into the safety of darkness, but I bumped into something solid. I turned slowly, and my heart dropped. The figure I had seen before was standing right behind me, grinning wider than ever, a broken doll gripped tightly in its hands. Trapped between two horrors, I had to think fast. The whispers grew louder, crescendoing into an unsettling chorus. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. Maybe I had to confront this, face whatever it was that stared at me with such malice. Maybe that was the only way out of this nightmare. "Who are you?" I whispered as bravely as I could muster. But instead of a reply, the figure lunged forward and I realized I had run out of time. I barely had time to react. The figure came straight for me, arms outstretched. I flinched, instinctively raising my hands to shield my face, but instead of the impact I expected, I felt a sudden rush of cold air as the figure swept past me, colliding with the edge of the tree cavity. The movement sent me tumbling backward and I gasped for air, scrambling to my feet. I didn't look back. I bolted out of the hole, adrenaline fueling my escape. The whispers continued to rise and fall behind me, a haunting melody that felt like a cruel taunt. I darted through the trees again, branches clawing at my arms and face, but I didn't care. I was fueled by pure terror. My instincts drove me to keep moving, my feet pounding against the forest floor. I could hear them, those voices, chasing me, echoing my own fear. "Come play with us." What kind of sick game was this? I needed to find safety or at least a way to break their strange hold over me. Up ahead, a clearing appeared, moonlight spilling across it like a beacon. I pushed forward, praying it would be an escape. But as I burst into the clearing, my breath caught in my throat. In the center stood an old wooden swing set, overtaken by vines and moss. It looked oddly out of place, almost like a relic from a time long forgotten. The swings swayed gently, as if someone had just gotten up from them. I felt a chill race down my spine. Before I could turn to flee, the whispers turned to laughter, a cacophony of childish glee that wrapped around me like a fog. "Join us! Join us!" they chorused, the voices rising with excitement. I stumbled backward, looking for a way out, but the trees around the clearing loomed high and dark. I was surrounded. Panic set in again. "Leave me alone!" I screamed, desperation clawing at my throat. I spun around, half expecting to see the figures closing in on me, but they were nowhere in sight. Then everything went silent. The quiet felt strange after the chaos. I scanned the area, my heart racing, wondering what was happening. I thought maybe I had imagined it all, but a creeping dread began to settle. Just when I thought I could breathe, I noticed something in the dirt near the swing. I stepped forward slowly, dread washing over me as I knelt to investigate. It was a small doll, almost identical to the one I had found earlier, but this one was missing an eye and had fresh dirt caked onto its face, as if it had just been buried. I felt cold fingers of fear wrap around my heart. That wasn't the worst part. On its small, worn dress I found an inscription, For Emily, always. I froze. My mind raced back to the voices, the laughter, the way they had chanted my name. Emily! Then I heard it again. The laughter, now much closer. My pulse quickened. They were coming back. I scrambled to my feet, clutching the doll like a lifeline, and turned to run again. But before I could escape, I felt the ground shift beneath me. Suddenly, the earth cracked open, and I stumbled, falling into darkness. Everything went black. I landed hard, the impact knocking the breath from my lungs. Pain shot through my side as I rolled over, struggling to push myself up. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the dim light. I was in some kind of underground chamber, the walls cold and damp. The air felt heavy, thick with an oppressive silence that wrapped around me like a shroud. I took a moment to catch my breath, feeling the earth beneath me, its solidity a strange comfort. But the darkness pushed against my thoughts, urging me to hurry. I needed to get out. As I stood unsteadily, I noticed faint glimmers along the walls, strange carvings glinting in the low light. Symbols. They looked familiar, the same symbols I had seen carved into the trees near the lake. A chill ran down my spine as I thought of their meaning. Had they drawn me here? Were they a warning or a lure? I stumbled forward, my instincts pushing me to escape whatever trap I had fallen into. The tunnel ahead sloped downward, the walls narrowing. I held the doll tightly against my chest, its coldness contrasting with the heat of my panic. As I moved deeper, I felt a vibration beneath my feet, a pulsing rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. It reverberated through me, and suddenly the whispers returned, faint but clear. They echoed off the walls, urging me to come closer. "Help us," they pleaded, intertwining with the laughter that had haunted me. "Play with us." With every step, the whispers grew louder, more coherent, drawing me further into the darkness. I had to know what they wanted. Desperation clawed at my insides, and I quickened my pace, fear and curiosity battling for dominance. Then, up ahead, the tunnel widened into a large underground room, illuminated by an eerie glow that seemed to emanate from the walls themselves. I stepped inside, and the sight stole my breath. In the center of the chamber stood a gathering of figures, their faces hidden in shadow. They were small, no taller than my waist, and each one held a doll, identical to the one I had found earlier. My stomach churned as I recognized their gnarled features reminiscent of the figure I had seen before. "Welcome, Emily," one of them called, and the sound washed over me like a wave. "Will you play with us now?" Cold sweat broke out across my skin. I wanted to run, to claw my way back to the surface, but I couldn't look away. The way they advanced, their smiles twisting into something taunting, made a frigid sense of inevitability wash over me. As they moved closer, I caught movement in my peripheral vision. Lurking at the back of the room, shrouded in shadows, was the tall figure, the one that had haunted me from the very beginning. It watched, grinning the same awful grin, a specter of fear that juxtaposed the childlike calls around me. "Join us," the beings chanted again, their voices melding into a haunting melody, as if trying to envelop me in their eerie play. Terror consumed me. I raised the doll, the one in my hands, the one I had clutched so tightly since the night had begun, and shouted, "No, I'm not here to play." At the sound of my voice, the room fell silent, the laughter dissipating like smoke. The figures froze mid-step, their faces shifting to something more serious as they eyed me with curiosity. The tall figure seemed to retreat slightly, its grin unwavering yet less aggressive. "Then why did you come?" another figure asked, tilting its head. "You found us." "I didn't know," I shot back, fear mixing with anger. "I just wanted to be alone. I didn't mean to stumble into your space." Their eyes flickered with understanding. "Can't we have fun together? We just want a friend," they said, their voices softer now, filled with a longing that tugged at my heart. "No," I cried out again, stepping back instinctively, unsure of how to escape this labyrinth of shadows. I need to go back." Suddenly the laughter erupted again, but this time a frenetic energy infused it. The ground trembled beneath me, the walls pulsing with the same heartbeat I had felt before. The tall figure advanced, its shadow swallowing the light. "You can't leave, Emily," it hissed. "You're one of us now." My instincts screamed at me to run, but before I could move, the walls of the chamber started closing in, enveloping me in darkness. I darted to the side, but it was as if the shadows were alive, reaching out, grabbing me like icy fingers wrapping around my limbs. Just as I was about to be swallowed whole by the darkness, I lifted my camera one last time, hoping to capture something, anything, that might explain my fate. I pressed the shutter, light flashing in the dim chaos, illuminating the figures around me as they recoiled in surprise. But when the light faded, I found myself standing alone in the clearing outside the woods, the untouched smoothness of the earth beneath my feet. I stumbled back, breathless, clutching the doll tightly. The forest was quiet now. The laughter was gone, but so were the shadows. My heart raced as I took a deep breath, glancing back toward the trees. Had I truly escaped, or was this just another trick? And as I stood there staring into the depths of the forest, the residual echo of the cries lingered in my mind. I felt uneasy, knowing I hadn't truly solved the mystery or confronted what haunted me. And deep down, I questioned if I would ever truly be free. Nonetheless, the doll still lay in my lap, a tangible reminder of the darkness I had faced. As I turned to leave, I couldn't help but glance back one more time. The trees swayed, but now in the stillness, the shadows felt more distant. I moved away, the soft whisper of the woods fading behind me. I didn't know if what happened was real or if I had gone mad. But one thing was certain: I would never return to that forest again.